Thank you. Good morning, all. I believe we are all here. I don't see anybody missing. We want to call this meeting to order at 8:47. Welcome to all. Our first line on our agenda is appointments, and we have our town clerk here as our official to create the appointments for chair and vice chair for this year. So I'm going to hand it over to Stacy.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. I don't do this often, so it's kind of rusty for me to remember how we handle this, but I believe that we do it by call for a nomination. And we're going to that nomination with chair and vice. And so do we have any nominations?
I'd nominate Brian Cumming to be chair.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Mayette. And all in favor?
Yes.
And Tom, was it Tom that said yes? Okay.
Well, I wasn't, no. Somebody else said yes, but I had my hand up.
Okay, good. I couldn't see you, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's carried. And so do we have a nomination for vice chair? Actually, I'll just read that motion just to make it more official. Sorry. The Police Services Board appoint Councillor Brian Cummings as the chair of the Police Services Board. And we did have a mover and a seconder, and it did carry. So now on to the vice chair. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Brad Saunders.
Okay. Do we have a seconder?
I appreciate that very, very much, Mike, but I'm going to decline. I'm going to be away for the foreseeable future, and I wouldn't want to hold up the Police Services Board business. But thank you very much for the nomination.
Okay. Nominate Tom.
I would second that.
Tom, are you okay with that?
Sure.
Before we continue.
Do I have a choice?
Let's see. There's process of elimination here.
Yeah, well, seeing as there's nobody else, that's an honor.
That's great. Okay. So so we have our vice chair, Police Services Board appoint Tom as the vice chair of Police Services Board. So you have, and can I get all in favor?
Yes.
Carried. All right. You now have a vice chair, a chair and a vice chair, and you can, I can leave.
Thank you, Stacy.
Okay.
So you remembered everything.
Yeah, smooth as silk. Smooth as silk.
It was so easy.
So easy. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Take care, Stace.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, could I ask a question?
Certainly.
It's with respect to the length of term for these appointments. Now, as we know, this is both an election year and a year in which we understand that the jurisdiction of the Police Services Board is going to be changed. Do we have any more information in that respect?
I was going to ask for that information under other business today, just to get an update as to what's going on as far as our board, or pardon me, our detachment boards are concerned, because we haven't heard anything as far as I know. So perhaps we can introduce that in other business and ask the CAO what we have heard in an update. If you're fine with that, Tom.
Oh, I just want to, again, tailing on to Brad's question, heaven forbid, Brian, if you weren't reelected, you could still be the chair of the police board.
Yes.
You wouldn't lose that position if you weren't in council.
It will be, the term is till the end of December. So I'll still be there till the end of December. There would possibly be a new chair or a new person from council on board in the new year. And that would be when council appointments would happen. But Jeff, you can clarify that if I'm wrong.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's my understanding as well, that it does go to the end of the term does go to the end of December, and then a new police service board would take effect come January.
Even if Brian wasn't in council.
Yeah, again, through you, Mr. Chair, that's my understanding as well, that
Yeah,
he's
good.
elected to the board as an individual.
Okay. Then we will proceed on with our agenda. Item 3 on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda for today. That the agenda of the meeting of March 7th, 2022 be adopted as presented. We need a mover and a seconder. Tom, second. Councillor Mayette, all in favor? Thank you, that's carried. We have no delegations today. If there's any declaration of pecuniary interest, please so note it now or when you feel fit during the meeting. Item 6 on our agenda is the adoption of the police services minutes. So we have minutes of December 6th and January 17th. And the motion is that the minutes of the regular meeting of December 6th, 2021 and the special meeting of January 17th, 2022 be accepted as presented. I need a mover. And Councillor Matt, second Tom. Any questions regarding the minutes? No. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Police number 7 on our agenda, Police Service Board information package. You hopefully have had a chance to read the information package. If there's anything you'd like to pull and discuss, this is the time to do it. Seeing none, I'm going to call for a motion that the Police Services Board information package dated having been given due consideration be received for information. I need a mover and a seconder for that. Mover, Mike, thank you, and second. Tom, thank you. All in favor? Good. Just a note, you did see some letters from municipalities supporting the recidivism rates in Ontario. Hopefully we get some more response as well. Well, our inspector gets a little bit of a reprieve today since he's already done his annual financial report. Unless you have anything to update us with, Inspector, on the detachment reports.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everyone. With respect to the piece on impaireds, if you recall, I mentioned that there was some discrepancies there, or I believe there was discrepancies. Being transparent, I was correct. So we had our regional bureau analyst here in Aurelia go through and check, and she uses her technology, whatever that platform may be. Anyways, it came back to having, instead of 19 impaireds, it was 94 impaireds. So that is fitting in line with the administrative driver's license suspensions, which I suspected. So there you have it. So again, being totally transparent, as you know, those numbers are always moving anyways. But at the end of the day, you can usually look, and when I've gone through the numbers myself, I can usually tell if they're that far off. It's quite apparent. So I wanted to bring that up to the board and let you all know that it was 94 versus 19. And that's all I have for today, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that moving was not a pun, was it? Those numbers are moving. They shouldn't be moving.
No, they're not.
They're not moving now, though, right?
No, they're not moving now. I would really like to see them reduce somewhat, but however, no, they're not moving. Thank you.
Yeah, bring one out.
All right, thank you. Next on our agenda is the financial report that the Penetang Police Services Board received financial statements for information. I need a mover and a seconder to get it on the floor. A mover, Mike, and seconded, you can't see Brad. Seconder, oh, there he is. Thank you. And any questions on the budget or the financial statement? Sorry. No questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All is in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 10 on our agenda is business arising from the minutes. Is there any business that we wish to discuss regarding the previous minutes? We don't see any, then we will move on. Consent agenda, the annual report, which is 2021 year end. We've already had that report. We should have a motion for that though. Was that at our last meeting, Jeff? That was at our last meeting that we made the motion for our annual report?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. We
Okay,
just thought we would add it here as a consent item, but my apologies. I should have clarified that for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so item 12 on our agenda is the matters for consideration. 2 items for discussion and feedback. The first one is our goals for 2022. Attached, you're going to find the goals for 2021. Hopefully you've had a chance to refamiliarize yourself with those goals. We're looking at creating either new goals or revising the older goals for this year. And the CAO and the inspector will get together and come up with a couple, but I would prefer that our board members take a look, and if you have any ideas as to where we should be concentrating our efforts this year, it's time to discuss that, and perhaps we can get something together for our next meeting. So I'm going to open it up to the board for comment on goals and objectives. Are there any comments on our current goals and objectives? Should we keep those or should we be looking at others?
I think we should keep those.
I think we should keep those. Are they? Yeah.
I agree with Tom, but I want to look at it. I can't think of anything that we can add right now, but I'd be happy with accepting what we've got now.
Okay. Inspector, any thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know what? I believe that we're on task with those goals and objectives we have currently, but it would never hurt for myself and the CAO to get together and ensure that we don't have to fine tune something. If CAO Lee's is up to that.
Yeah, through
Mr. Chair, over the past little while, have there been any issues in the with respect to our mandate that we should be talking about? Let me say very quickly, I'm not aware of any, but I just wondered if somebody else was.
As far as I know, we're really on task as far as the report is concerned. Reports that we're receiving are concerned. We're really hitting our mark on at least 90% of what we've got there. Hopefully we can increase it a little bit, but I mean, I think we are hitting our mark on, according to the reports anyway, and I haven't heard anything out of the ordinary. Jeff, maybe you can comment on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I would agree with that. There's certainly no red flags for me in terms of areas that we're being complacent in with respect to the 6 in front of you. The only comment I would add with respect to perhaps heightening the awareness and heightening the focus on, which we do touch on here in bullet point number 3, our 3rd goal, just with everything that's gone on with the pandemic and people's mental health and well-being, I think it's going to be even that much more important to continue to put focus and energy towards that, you know, the whole concept of the North Simcoe Crisis Management and Resource Team. So certainly, you know, if the board is in support of that, which I think I'm kind of hearing that, then when Inspector Evans and I meet, perhaps we can look at some language with respect to that particular goal. I think we just need to elevate the importance and the focus on that one in particular, as it relates to everything that's gone on over the last 2 years, Mr. Chair. That would be my feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
If I can just add,
yep.
Mr. Chair, if I can just add and kind of dovetail on what Mr. Lees has said there. We have just this week, we've increased our technology at the hospital with respect to our North Central Crisis Management and Response team. So we have an extra officer that is working more hours than what we initially thought we would. So we've covered 6 out of the 7 days, which we did last year, but we're covering more of the days. We've also partnership better with the GBGH Hospital with respect to mental health crisis. And so we're moving along, but to update that bullet, as Mr. Lee stated, would put us in line with what we're already doing. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members will probably notice that one of our first points is about the Safe Streets Act and community policing our bicycle and foot patrols. I believe, Joe, you have increased that in the park area and down at the dock area, just so members are aware that it has been increased. We did have some incidents down there. However, I mean, you can't be there all the time, but at least the presence is there, and people are talking to the officers walking in the park and at the dock as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you, we've also increased our qualified people for bike patrol. So I had 3 additional officers trained last year so that we could do more bike patrol in those areas.
Okay, Tom?
Joe, back to, you were talking about a dedicated officer in reference to mental health. And what actually does he or she do? If you alluded to them doing more, what do you mean?
Thank you, Tom. Through you, Mr. Chair. So what our officers do on our crisis management team is they work directly with a clinician, if you will, from WENDAT. So we have 3 clinicians and 2 officers. And what they do is they will attend and revisit and work with our vulnerable communities and people that are in crisis, get them assistance through 211, better working with the shelter, and they're more of a mediator when it goes to the hospital. So we're not tying up our frontline officers going to mental health calls. We're using these officers that have clinicians with them, and then what they do is they'll go and they'll work better with these folks. A lot of them don't want to see the police, and the police are working more and more with that vulnerable community. So what we're trying to do is keep the frontline police officers away from going to those calls unless there's violence involved. And what we'll do is we'll have these crisis officers along with their clinicians. They'll go and they will help the people that are in crisis work through, and if they have to go to the hospital, they're at the hospital and they're not tying up a frontline officer.
Oh, in effect, Joe, these officers are after the fact?
No, they're initial as well. They're after the fact as well, Tom. What happens is they will go and they will revisit, make sure people are staying on their meds, and let the clinician do that, but they're there for the safety of the clinician, but they also have additional training in the mental health field.
Are they uniformed?
Yes, they are. They never used to be, because the uniform can set people off.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's right. The laundry we wear, but what happens is they make sure it's safe, and then they allow the clinician to go and deal with the crisis. So there is a clinician that rides along with both of our officers.
During the initial contact, Joe, is this officer uniformed as well?
Correct.
During the initial contact, so the whole process with person X, the officer is uniformed?
Yes, they are.
Really?
Now.
I thought that was, that the uniform was perceived to be a bad thing.
Yeah, well, they have to know that the police are there for the safety of both the victim and for the clinician that is riding with us. A lot of times you'll have frontline officers attend the call for service depending on the severity of the call, and then our crisis management team will come in right after them. Our crisis management team does not drive a code 1 car, which is a a black and white. They're in a plain vehicle, so it doesn't highlight anything until they step out. Then you're going to see that they're in uniform, but then there's a civilian, what looks like a civilian with them. That's a clinician that can help with the crisis on site. And a lot of times they don't even have to go to the hospital. They're working in situ, if you will, they're working on the scene at the person's residence or location, unless it's bad enough to take them to the hospital.
The clinician is a civilian?
Yes, from Wendat. So it's a partnership. It's a partnership that we have with Wendat.
Well educated in that field.
Very well educated, and as are our officers. One officer that we have currently is a past nurse from Waypoint that came over to policing. So he's got a background in mental health as well and crisis management. And the other officer that we have is PC Aaron Coulter, and he is doing a phenomenal job getting up to speed and working with the hospital and making things better at the hospital, so that our victims that go to the hospital don't feel that the stigma of having the issues they do.
So every call that you're getting regarding mental health, there is 2 people that attend.
Every call.
Yeah.
If we don't have the crisis management team working, there will be a frontline officer and a second officer for backup. It's always a 2 officer call. And then once we realize that the scene is safe, then we have the clinician come and work with the victim.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
No problem. So we'd like to get this final draft finished by our next meeting. So if board members have any other ideas as far as the goals and objectives are concerned for 2022, please let me know and I can forward them to Inspector Evans or Jeff, and we can work on it from there. So I have a motion in front of me that the Police Service Board update the goals and objectives for 2022 and that the final draft be presented at our next board meeting in June. Do I have a motion first of all? Tom, second. Brad, did you have a comment or a question, Tom? Or no? Okay. Any questions? No, I call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The second on our agenda is for also discussion and feedback. As members are aware, we developed a new professional development and training manual or an attachment to our rules and procedures. It is that time of year where we should be doing it, where we have an evaluation, a board evaluation, and a personal evaluation of board members. What it did not include in the draft or in the final document was how we would proceed and analyze the answers to the survey. So I'm going to open this up. Maybe Tom, you could enlighten us. There are 3 parts. One is the board assessment. The other one is our best practices with council. And then there is a personal assessment. Now I know that the personal assessment is your own assessment of what you've accomplished in the past. So it will not be included in any of the documentation, but the first 2 should be. And so we get an idea of how we are performing. So I'll leave it to Tom. Maybe perhaps you can enlighten us a little bit on how we should correlate this survey or the survey results, Tom?
Well, we have everything in the, I don't have the papers with, yes, I do. It's a little complicated in our rules and procedures. And let me see. I'm sorry, Brad. I didn't know you were going to.
That's
Brian,
all right, no problem.
I won't even be able to.
It's just my interpretation.
Go ahead, Brian.
It was just my interpretation that we possibly could have, for instance, Jeff or Kelly to take anonymous board surveys and just put them together and give us a result of what, how we were performing, whether above or below or whatever. That was my interpretation, but there is no sort of documentation in our rules and procedures.
Well, there's a board evaluation board performance survey questionnaire. Are you familiar with that?
Yep.
Everybody familiar with that? And that was the only thing and the only method of recording. It's quite extensive, actually. It's many pages. So what actually is your question, Brian, is what we do with that information, or how we correlate it?
How would we correlate it and report back to the board on the results? I mean,
I don't know if you can do it in this, well, you can't do it in this meeting, but if you could just ask everybody to review and to answer that questionnaire, which is headlined Penetanguishene Police Services Board Evaluation and Board Member Self-Assessment Survey dated November 1, 2021.
Okay. There are 3 parts to it. I understand that the last part is a personal survey, so that's just sort of an assessment of how we performed on the board. That is not to be turned in, but the question is, how do we correlate that? Do we just, perhaps I can ask, Jeff's got his hand up here, so let's see what CAO would suggest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I might, I'll offer a suggestion to the board, and then obviously the board it's the board's decision. But a suggestion might be that, as the chair has noted, parts 1 and parts 2 are really, the intent was really that parts 1 and part 2, I believe, be provided and not essentially kind of submitted. My understanding is part 3 was more of a self-assessment where it wouldn't be submitted. If, one suggestion for the board might be that that we circulate this with some kind of basic instructions, and that we ask board members by a certain date to submit parts 1 and parts 2 to Ms. Kelly Cole. And then Kelly could summarize in a confidential manner without attaching names to it, but roll it up kind of in a report format at a high level, and then kind of come back to the next board meeting with that high level, confidential, no names attached information, so that the board has kind of a picture painted, if you will, from the 4 members of the board, and just with respect to parts 1 and parts 2. I believe the intent with this was that, we can try to understand as a board where we might need to focus some more energy on, and maybe there's areas that we're focusing too much energy on. So this really is a a continuous improvement tool, if you will, to continue to elevate and make the board better. So, Mr. Chair, that would be my suggestion, but just a suggestion for the board to consider.
Thank you, Tom.
I think that's very good, Jeff, a very good idea. And Kelly, everybody might not be able to find this, but it's on page 3 to page 9. And as Jeff recommended, if you could email that to board members and date it somehow. I don't know, you've got to have it, well, it's got to be done before the next meeting, doesn't it, Brian?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so give us a couple of weeks. Do you know where it is, Kelly? You know how to find it?
Yes. Yes, yeah, okay, I will definitely send it out. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and to ignore, as Brian said, ignore from page 10 on.
Yes.
Okay. So everybody is on the same page. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, we will circulate part 3, but ask that members do not submit parts 3. It would just be for their own self-assessment.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So we will submit it, Tom. We will provide it but we'll provide it as a separate package and ask that it not be submitted.
Yeah, I agree.
I think all members in agreement then that we do that. I think for clarification's sake, perhaps by the next meeting, we should have a motion to amend that section so that it's clear as to what's expected for this survey, that we can put it into our Schedule H and work from there.
Sure.
All right, any other discussion on that? So members, if once you get this, it's circulated, please do it as soon as possible because they're very long and Kelly's going to have a hard time putting all this together and getting a formal report back to us by our June meeting. So when you get it, please do it and send it back to her so that she can get it done. Tom, additional comment?
Kelly, I think you know, but if you can't find anything, let me know. But I think you seem to know all about it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I have a motion in front of me that where am I here? Come on. My computer's not working. Okay, that the Police Services Board provide feedback regarding the board evaluation and the board members' self-assessment survey. I need a motion. Tom, seconder. And Mike, thank you. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 13 on the agenda is notice of motion. We have none. Item 14 is other business. Jeff, if you would, do you have an update on detachment boards? What's happening? I haven't heard anything. Have you heard anything recently on detachment boards?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My update's going to be pretty brief because I don't have anything either. The only thing I would add is amongst our CAOs group, there's been some discussion and entirely speculative, but the belief is that at this point, given the writ drops for the provincial election in less than 2 months, that it will be sometime after the provincial election that this will be considered in one way, shape, or form, whether it be proceeding with the anticipated legislation or not, or somewhere in the middle, adjusting course. So that's really the update I have, Mr. Chair. I will reach out, or we will reach out to the province just to see if we can get some answers. We've had some difficulty getting answers from the province on this particular matter, but we will certainly reach out and see if we can get something for our next board meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments regarding this? No. I had one other item. The Ontario Police Service Board Annual Conference is coming up May 26th, 27th. I'm not sure whether people have seen it or not. If anyone is interested in going, that is one of our conferences in our new procedure that is available to us. It is now going to be both virtual and hybrid, or hybrid, I guess they call that, virtual and in person. So it is, if anybody has seen it or would want me to forward it to them, please let me know and I will. And number 15 on our agenda is our in-camera session. So at this time, we are going to say goodbye to Inspector Evans. Hope you have a great week, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So long, everyone. Enjoy your week. Stay safe.
Have a good day.
Stay safe.
Thank you. So that in accordance with Section 35, subsection 4 of the Police Services Act, the Penetang Police Services Board move into an in-camera session. I need a mover. Mike, and a seconder, Tom. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The annual performance evaluation for the detachment commander. Do we have our form that's available? I didn't get it. Jeff?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Kelly?
I can see the wheels turning. I think in Kelly's, I think she's just trying to pull it up. We're going to share it on the screen.
Okay.
And it's the annual form that we always use, but Kelly will share it here just momentarily if that's okay with the board.
Sure.
Sorry, I'll just be a minute.
Take your time, Kel. It's all good.
Jeff, you're right. You can tell the wheels are turning in her head. Look at her concentrate. Look at her. She's really working hard. And we're all watching you, Kelly.
If I was her, I would probably turn my camera off.
That's right.
Because she knows there's 5 faces looking at her.
Yeah, we're all in anticipation.
Not to add any stress, Kelly, but have we stopped recording?
We can adjust that. We can edit that out, so it's all good.
Okay. Police Services Board rise. The board rise from the in-camera session with the report. I'll need a motion. Mike, second, and Brad, all in favor? Thank you very much. We are now out of camera. Item 16, community relations. We have none. Public discussion. Is there any public to discuss? No, I don't see any. The date of our next meeting is Monday, June 6th at 8:45. And I need, if there's nothing else, I need a motion for adjournment. Tom, thank you. Seconded by Brad. Motion for adjournment is carried. Thank you. Thank you all for your participation. When you get the surveys, please send them in so that we can get them correlated and ready for our next meeting.